Hello everyone. Right now I am going to start chapter 5 of level 2, tissues and other levels of organization. You have just learnt that cell is the fundamental structural and functional unit of life, and that bodies of organisms are made up of cells of various shapes and sizes. Group of similar cells aggregate to collectively perform a particular function. Such group of cells are called tissues. This lesson deals with the various kinds of tissues of plants and animals. After completing this lesson, you will be able to define tissues, classify plant tissues, name the various kinds of plant tissues, tunica carpus theory, histogen theory, animal tissues, epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, nervous tissues, etc. Organs such as stem, root in plants and stomach, heart and lungs in animals are made up of different kinds of tissues. Tissue क्या है? A tissue is a group of cells with a common origin, structure and function. Their common origin means they are derived from the same layer of cells in the embryo. Being of a common origin, they are similar in structure and hence perform the same function. Many kinds of tissues organize to form an organ. Example, blood, bone, cartilage are some example of animal tissues, whereas parenchyma, collenchyma, xylem and phloem are different tissues in plant. The study of tissue is known as histology. A group of cells with similar origin, structure and function is called tissue. Example, bone, muscles in animals and meristem in tips of root and fruit in plants. The plant tissues are mainly of two types, meristematic and permanent. आप जानते हो जिस सेल के अंदर डिवाइड होने की पॉसिबिलिटी है दैट इज कॉल्ड मेरिस्टेमेटिक टिश्यू, और जो सेल डिवाइड नहीं होगी वो आती है परमानेंट टिश्यू में, एंड ग्रुप ऑफ सेल्स इज नोन एज टिश्यू. सो मेरिस्टेमेटिक टिश्यूज कंपोज्ड ऑफ इमेच्योर और अनडिफरेंशिएटेड सेल्स without intercellular spaces. The cells may be rounded, oval or polygonal, always living and thin-walled. Each cell has abundant cytoplasm and prominent nuclei in it. Vacuoles may be small or absent. Types of meristematic tissues: apical meristem, intercalary meristem and lateral meristem. एपिकल मेरिस्टम कहाँ होगा? रूट टिप एंड शूट टिप. जो आगे वाला पोर्शन है रूट का या शूट का, वहां आपको देखने को मिलेगा एपिकल मेरिस्टम. फंक्शन है इसका ग्रोथ इन लेंथ ऑफ प्लांट. इंटरकैलरी होगा एट द बेस ऑफ लीव्स और एट द बेस ऑफ इंटरनोड्स. एट द बेस ऑफ लीव्स और एट द बेस ऑफ इंटरनोड्स यहाँ मिलेगा आपको इंटरकैलरी मेरिस्टम. दिस इज फॉर इंटरनोडल ग्रोथ. लास्ट वन इज लेटरल मेरिस्टम. ये मिलेगा कैम्बियम में, बिटवीन जाइलम एंड फ्लोएम में, और दिस इज द ग्रोथ इन थिकनेस. सेकेंडरी ग्रोथ के टाइम पर ये काम में आएगा. नाउ यू कैन सी हियर द फिगर regarding meristem, apical meristem. So permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are those in which growth has stopped either completely or for the time being. Cells of these tissues may be living or dead and thin-walled or thick-walled. Thin-walled permanent tissues are generally living, whereas the thick-walled tissues may be living or dead. Types of permanent tissues: simple tissues. Simple tissues are made up of only one type of cells. Common simple tissues are parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. You can see this figure of this in the next figure. Complex tissues. Complex tissues are made up of more than one type of cells working together as a unit. Common examples are xylem and phloem. The structure, function and distribution of simple plant tissues are given in the next table. These are the tissues: parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. All of these tissues, only parenchyma are living, but collenchyma and sclerenchyma, these are dead tissues. You can take a screenshot of this table and note down in your notebook. This is the diagram: parenchyma, collenchyma and chlorenchyma. Complex tissues. Complex tissues are mainly of two types, xylem and phloem. Xylem and phloem form a continuous system inside the plants, that is from the roots through the stem and leaves. They are known as vascular tissues and form vascular bundles in roots and stems. Xylem. Xylem is a conducting tissue which conducts water and salts upward from root to leaves. And xylem is composed of tracheids, vessels, fibers and xylem parenchyma. Phloem. Phloem too is a conducting tissue which conducts food synthesis in the leaves to different parts of the plant. Phloem is composed of seed tubes, companion cells, phloem fiber and phloem parenchyma. The structure function of the complex plant tissue is given in next table. So xylem and phloem, these are four components are found in the xylem: tracheids, vessels, xylem fibers and xylem parenchyma. And four components are found in phloem: seed tubes, companion cells, phloem fiber and phloem parenchyma. This is the structure of vessels, tracheids and fibers. Theories explaining growth of the plant at its apex and root tip. There are two important theories that explain the growth of a plant at the extremities of shoot and root. They are tunica carpus theory and histogen theory. Tunica carpus theory was developed for vegetative shoot apex. According to this theory, there are two zones of tissues in the apical meristems. The tunica means cover, consisting of one or more layer of peripheral layers of cells, and the corpus means body, a mass of cells enclosed by the tunica. According to the theory, different rates and methods of growth in the apex set apart two regions. The layers of tunica show anticlinal, it means perpendicular to periphery, anticlinal divisions and bring about surface growth. In the corpus, cell division is irregular and at various planes, resulting in growth in volume of the mass. Tunica gives rise to epidermis and cortex. Corpus gives rise to endodermis, pericycle, pith and vascular tissues. Histogen theory. According to this theory, apical meristem of stem and root are composed of small mass of cells which are all alike and divide fast. These meristematic cells form promeristem, which differentiate into three zones: dermatogen, peribulum and plerome. Every zone consists of a group of initials called a histogen, tissue builder. Dermatogen gives rise to epidermis of stems and epiblema of roots. Peribulum, middle layer, gives rise to cortex of stems and roots, and plerome gives rise to central meristematic region, pericycle, pith and vascular tissue. Next is animal tissue, epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue and nervous tissue. Epithelial for protective by covering, connective binding support and transport, muscular movement and locomotion, and nervous tissue control and coordination. Epithelial tissue structural characteristics. The cells forming epithelial tissue are closely packed with no intercellular space in between, arise from a non-cellular basement membrane, not supplied with blood vessels. Function: line the surfaces, help in absorption. Secrete: also bear protoplasmic projections such as the cilia. Squamous epithelium: flattened cells with a centrally placed nucleus, have irregular margins. Location है lining of air sacs in the lungs. and function for exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, for absorption and for exchange of material. Cuboidal epithelium. Third is ciliated epithelium. Fourth is columnar epithelium. Ciliated columnar epithelium. Brush bordered columnar epithelium. Cuboidal is cube-like cells with a centrally placed nucleus. Cells appear polygonal. These are used for absorption. Ciliated epithelium, it has cilia in its free ends. Columnar, tall column-like cells. Ciliated columnar, cilia at free ends, and brush bordered, numerous folds at free ends. This is the structure of these types of cells. Next, the structure of different epithelial tissue. If the epithelial cells are in a single layer, they form simple epithelium. If the epithelial cells are arranged in many layers, they form compound epithelium or stratified epithelium. It means many layers. Stratified epithelium is present in the body where there is lot of wear and tear. For example, skin, inner lining of cheeks, etc. Connective tissues. The connective tissues has two components: matrix, the ground substance, and cells. The matrix and cells are different in different connective tissues. Matrix is the ground substance. Types of connective tissues: areolar, adipose, fibrous, blood, and lymph. Proper connective tissues: areolar, most widely spread connective tissue. The cells forming the tissues are fibroblasts, which form the yellow and white fibers in the matrix. Macrophages, which help in engulfing bacteria and micropathogens. Mast cells, which secrete heparin. Heparin help in the clotting of blood. Second is adipose tissue. It has specialized cells storing fat called adipose, help in forming paddings. Third is fibrous. It is mainly made up of fibroblasts. It forms tendons and ligaments. This is the structure of these tissues. Supporting connective tissues are of two types: cartilage and bones. Cartilage. Number 1, matrix is composed of chondrin. The cells lie in the matrix, single or in groups of 2 or 4 surrounded by fluid-filled spaces. The cartilage may be elastic, whose matrix has yellow fibers as in pinna or as a pinna of ear. Number 2, cartilage may be fibrous, whose matrix has white fiber. Fibrous cartilage is present in between vertebrae. The cartilage can be calcified where matrix is deposited with calcium salt as in head of long bones. Matrix is composed of osine. Matrix also contains salt of calcium, phosphorus and magnesium. Matrix in mammalian long bones such as thigh bone is arranged in concentric rings. The osteocytes, bone cells, lie on the lamellae. Osteocytes give out branched processes which join with those of the adjoining cells. Some bones have a central cavity which contains a tissue that produces blood cells. The substance contained in the bone cavity is called bone marrow. Bones are of two types, spongy and compact. In spongy bones, bone cells are irregularly arranged. Such bones are found at the end of the long bones. In the compact bones, cells are arranged in circles or lamellae around a central canal, the Haversian canal. Fluid connective tissue. Blood and lymph are two forms of the fluid connective tissue. Blood. It is complex of blood cells and plasma. Plasma form the matrix. The blood cells, red blood cells, these are also called erythrocytes, transport oxygen and carbon dioxide. White blood cells, these are called leukocytes, function in defense against bacteria, viruses and other invaders. Third is platelets. Thrombocytes help in the clotting of blood. Plasma is the extracellular fluid of matrix. The ground substance. It contains large number of proteins such as fibrinogen, albumin, globulin to be transported to various parts of the animal body for various purposes. Muscle tissues. Muscle tissue is composed of long excitable cells containing parallel microfilaments of contractile protein shape, actin, myosin, troponin and tropomyosin. Because of its elongated shape, muscle cells is called a muscle fiber. The muscle fiber of vertebrate are of three different types: striated, unstriated, cardiac, according to shape and function as mentioned in table and figure. So striated, unstriated and cardiac, you can take a screenshot and compare them according to location, shape, sarcolemma, nucleus, blood supply and intercalate disc. This is the diagram. A smooth muscle fiber and lower one is cardiac muscle fiber. So the muscle fiber have the following characteristics: excitability, respond to stimulus; extensibility, stretch; contractility, contract; elasticity, move back to the original position. Next is nervous tissue. Nervous tissue has two kinds of cells, neurons and neuralgia. So neurons is a functional unit of nervous tissue. Neurons are also called nerve cells. Nervous tissue constitute the brain, spinal cord, nerves and the sensory cells and sense organs. A single neuron has a generalized appearance as shown in the next figure. You can see here. Like any other cell of the body, it has the main cell body called cytone, from which project out a varying number of processes, one of which is usually very long. This long fiber is called the axon. The smaller but branching processes of the cytone are called dendrites. Dendrites means in Greek trees. The cell bounded by plasma membrane possesses a nucleus and other organelles like mitochondria, etc. The cytone also contains dark granules called nacelle bodies. These are made of RNA and proteins. Transmission of nerve impulse. The branching dendrites receive the stimulus and transmit through the cytone to the axon, which finally transmits it through its variously branched end into either a muscle or to a gland. The axon constitutes the nerve fiber. The nerve fiber may or may not be covered by an extra sheath. This is called medullary sheath, secreted by sheath cells. It is made up of myelin. Myelin is a lipid-like substance. Accordingly, the nerve fiber is termed medullated and non-medullated. The medullary sheath is not continuous and is broken at nodes of the Ranvier. We started the lesson by talking about the smallest unit of life in any living organism. Example, the cell. The cell has a very complex system of its organelles, each organelle concerned with a particular task or activity, and each activity contributing to the total performance of the cell. Thus, there is a division of labor at the cellular level. As evolution progressed and larger organisms appeared with enormous number of cells in the body, it became necessary that the bodily functions are distributed among different or groups of cells or tissues, even among groups of tissues. Such higher and higher stages or grouping are known the level of organization. These levels are as follows. Cellular level, the organization of the activities by different organelles in a single cell. Example, white blood cells or a green cell of a leaf. Next is tissue level, the aggregate of cells, it means group of cell of same origin and having same function. Example, the surface epithelium of our skin or the dividing cells at the root cap of a plant. Next is tissue system, generally seen in plants where two or more different cell types combine to perform a particular activity. Example, vascular tissues of a leaf consisting of xylem and phloem for transport of water and food material. Next is organ level, a distinct recognizable part of the body composed of a variety of tissues and performing one or more special functions which contribute to the well-being of the organism. Example, liver in animals and leaf in plants. Organ system, this is combination of a set of organs, all of which are usually devoted to one general functions. Example, respiratory system consisting of lungs, trachea, diaphragm, etc. In man or the shoot system consisting of leaves, stem and branches, etc. in a plant. Next is organism, the complete individual made up of different organ system. Example, man, monkey or any plant. In this whole chapter, what you have learnt, in this slide you got summary. A tissue is a group of cells which are essentially of the same kind and of same origin and performing similarly functions. In plants, there are first of all two major categories of tissues, meristematic and permanent. Meristematic tissues are located at all growing points. Permanent tissues consist of the simple tissue like parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, and complex tissues also. Complex tissues are of two types, xylem and phloem. The animal tissues consist of epithelium, connective tissues, which primarily support, connect or bind the body parts, the contractile muscle tissue, and the nervous tissue consisting of nerve cells adapted for conducting messages into brain cells, etc. Like the various tissues in both plants and animals are grouped together to form an organ. The different organs together form the organ system, and the various organ systems together constitute the organism or the individual. Thus, there are different levels of organization with increasing complexity and specialization from cells to organisms. Practice. These are the questions you have to solve yourself. Now we will meet